Call the meeting to order at 6:16, March 29th, 2023, open session meeting of the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust. And I know we know this all by heart, but I'm still going to have to read it. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. Excuse me. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID 81805097403 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Alicia Hersey at ahersey@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220 extension 142 prior to the meeting. Thank you for putting up with that. So first on our agenda is to approve the agenda. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean.
Second.
Thank you, James, for the second. Any discussion on it? Hearing none, I'm assuming none, excuse me. I'm going to go by Hollywood Squares this evening. Mr. Stephen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Cindy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Cindy. Sean, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So that's first. Second on our agenda is to approve the minutes from the February 8th, 23 minutes.
Which unfortunately did not get completed.
They did not
So
get
I'd like
completed? That was a
correct.
question. So I'm going to suggest that we suspend the approval of the February 8th meeting minutes until our next get together. Which brings us to next on our agenda is the Ayer Rental Assistance Application Review and Award. And hey, Colleen.
Hi, so
Colleen, don't be sorry. You were on mute, but don't be sorry. I'm rushing the gates because I want to catch another meeting before it's over tonight. And I want to give Janet some time. So Alicia, could you give us an update?
certainly. So, hello, was there a question?
I don't think so. I think it was just a background noise.
So I sent out to everybody my spreadsheet. I don't know if people were able to pull it up. We had 11 applications for the new spots. Everybody in our spots from the original from last year qualified again. And interestingly, even with the 11 applications, we've actually had some attrition along the way. So one application was over income, as you see. Was there a question here? Wait,
I think we're just picking up. I believe it or not, I think we're just picking up some random noise. I'm going to mute I don't think it's from here, but if we all mute, well.
Okay. So if you see, I actually on the under I gave them their scoring in the order that they scored the highest. Now we have qualified, we've qualified everyone. One unit was not a legal unit and we could not work with the person. By the time I got back to this person, after the application had been submitted, the phone had been changed and it was not clear. I will follow up with this person and talk to them about the fact that if they do get a legal unit, we could possibly help them because the score would have been very high for this person. This year, this go around, what I didn't put down as I'm actually looking at this is how many families we had. So let me just take a look. I didn't put a lot of information on here, so I would have gone through it ahead of time. The 238s are families. The two score 38s are families. Let me think. We have one.
Alicia,
Yes.
Alicia, can you just hold for a minute? I can't share it. I'm trying to.
Oh,
Cindy, are you there?
Yeah, I can't look at the document. It's in a format that I can't read.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could send the agenda and the rental assistance thing as PDFs or something. So I've got no clue what you're even talking about because there's nothing.
I
I'm
have
gonna-
it. I have it open on my computer if I'm able to share
Okay,
it.
I can share it now. There we
I just
go.
turned it on.
Okay.
I think you can
Oh,
see, I
thank
think
you,
you can
thank
see it,
you.
okay?
That helps.
okay.
But
That
I-
works great.
I still need those forms resent to me in a form that I can put into.
Absolutely. I will be happy to get that for you.
Thank
Okay, what
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to do is actually keep everybody's identity, secret. And as I'm working on these forms, I'm adding more things. And as I look at this, one of the things that I should be sharing is elderly, family, that sort of thing. And I didn't share that on there just because it's interesting data and it's interesting to see who's coming. Of the 11 applications, all but one qualified as affordable. The most qualified, the one person at 43 who got a score of 43, unfortunately learned after applying, and when I called and told them they were first on the list, that were being asked to leave their rental. The rental is going to be sold. So I've actually held that open. I was holding it open for just 2 weeks and said, if you find a rental in Ayer that qualifies, we will let you take this with you. And I did that on my own judgment. I hope everybody's in agreement with that. But it's hard enough to have to move. And this is the second time this person has qualified and for a different reason didn't get it last year. Okay. And they are very needy. So we will, that one, because I am out right now with COVID, I haven't been able to reach out since it's coming back to see what's happened with this person. But if that person has found another rental, or if that person's going to be even allowed to stay in their unit for even 4 to 6 months, I would recommend that we give them rental assistance until they have to move out of the unit. Does anybody have any comments about that?
I think, sorry.
Go ahead, Sean, please. I can't see who's who, so go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Jeff. No, I think that's actually a really good idea, especially given their score, that we should be able to at least hold off on that one to see if they could still get it.
Absolutely. And it's a single parent family, so it would be very helpful. So
I also agree with Sean. I think we should stick with it and try as much as we can for them to get it.
okay. Thank you. I was trying to not hold the program up, but in the same sense, be as helpful as we could be.
And I'm going to say thank you for making that decision. I mean, here's our most qualified person. And who would have thought that the rental would disappear?
And they've been in the rental for a while. And to be fair, the landlord has a partner and the partner has decided to sell. So this is what's happening. I mean, the property owners, they get to discern what they're going to do. And the property owner has been very helpful along the way. Okay. So when we go from that, we have 2 more at 38 scores. Oh, no, we have a 42 also. So all of those are families. Okay. But if we have to drop off the first one, then we're going to drop to a 31 too. And so all these scores are very high, and only 2 of them are single elderly people. So I was a little surprised we didn't get more applications, but I think that there's a couple things that get in the way. One is that it has to be a legal apartment. 2, you have to have a legal lease. And 3 is people that are working hard don't always have time to fill out applications and things. So I've let them come in, I've helped them do it. And this time it did get out. It got out in the action and limited. I got a lot of phone calls about this. What I haven't done, I thought I was going to be in the office before this meeting, so I thought I'd have a little bit more time to pull some information for you. But I think I did log how many people I sent applications out to, and it was well over 20 applications went out, if not 25. And what we got back was 11. So
Okay.
we're just working down the list, waiting to see what number 1 does, and we'll just take the next person online.
Any questions from any of the members of the trust? I'm going to stop sharing this so I can actually see you all.
Can I
Yes,
ask a
Colleen.
quick question? So on the spreadsheet, it looked like, and maybe I missed this, only 4 listed from last year.
So
So does
We-
that mean one family is not returning in the program, and then we could take 6 from the new lot?
I'm sorry, I should have explained that. One person we actually ended up putting into the program 5 months into the program. So I chose not to qualify them 5 months in advance. I chose to hold off and qualify them closer to the renewal date because I just thought it wasn't really fair to qualify them 5 months in advance. I do expect them to qualify. It's an elderly person on a fixed income. I do expect that person to qualify very much and has seen a rental increase as well. But I just thought, I hemmed and hawed about that, whether I should get them all on track at the same time. But 5 months seemed a little bit long to qualify them beforehand.
A question about this person you say that's barely qualified income wise. How will their situation, is there any perspective change in their income or their life for the next year or so? Because this can't last forever. So what is their plan? Do they have any kind of a plan?
That person actually has some increased income coming too. So
Okay.
not only they just didn't qualify, but as we did a deeper, dive into it, they were more stable. So that one's not the one that I'm actually concerned about. Is the one that the rental unit didn't qualify.
This one
That
here.
person very much at risk. And if we, and all of these people would have been referred to our social worker if we could actually get a social worker so that they could start working with the social worker to look at other options and what can happen for them. Before we go any farther, Colleen, did you understand my response on that?
I did. That makes a lot of sense. And I agree, it makes sense to wait, with 5 months being a long period to do it ahead. So yes, thank you.
Okay. So
May I ask, just out of curiosity, when they say the rental unit does not qualify, it doesn't qualify because it has
It's
something
not
that
a
can be
legal
remediated,
apartment.
or, I'm sorry?
it is not a legal apartment.
Okay.
And-
So that's not a low hanging problem. That's
Yeah. I
We're gonna
I
run
had
into
a
those.
discussion with the building inspector, and he said, there's no way we're gonna approve that.
okay.
And so, because it's yeah.
Yeah, no, Charlie's good at his job. There's no reason why to, so, but like I said, if it's it doesn't have the right railing on a 4-step entryway staircase, that's a remediation that can happen to make it a legal egress.
Yes.
So there's some that can be done and some that can't be done. But if it's real close, it behooves the owner to do the work.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So-
And as I'm looking at this I might actually expand this because I think just for more information for you all to understand who's coming to us. I was really pleased to see how many families came to us. One family has 5 children. And being able to help them is a big deal. Another family, that family has 2 parents and 5 children. Another family has 2 more families. One family has 2 children, and I'm doing this from memory. I would have had it all for you. I'm sorry. And a single parent. Another is a single parent with 1 child. It's just, I like to see stabilization for families, as well as elderly too, absolutely. But last time we got almost all single people, and this time we really got a lot of families. That's what I'm trying to say.
Alicia, and this could be a question for, a future meeting, but if you could just think about, while you're receiving additional applications, if there should be any changes that we make in the way that we're scoring these applications. Like if seeing more kids or just in general, if there's anything that you can think of or for a way for us to tweak the application scoring process in the future.
The only thing that I might have said is we only score for children in school. We don't score for each child in school. We give them scores for a child in the school system. And the question is, do we want to increase for more children? But that is actually built in to the income score, because remember the income score is on household size. So I was very concerned about some of the applications that came in when the families were coming in, because I thought that some of the elderly disabled, just as needy and things like that, I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And I was actually quite pleased at how the scores balanced out. They really were representative of the need, I think.
I think hearing Sean's question, hearing your response says to me that there might be an opportunity to take a deeper dive on the number scoring system and make sure it sounds like it's covering the need.
But it doesn't hurt to double check that.
No, exactly. So what are the next steps? What do you need from us at this point, Alicia? Anything?
To instead of approving, I need you to approve the first 5 qualified applicants on the list.
May I ask
then,
yeah. So that would be the number 1, the number 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5, correct?
yes.
So that would be applicant 23210.
And I need you to approve number 6 if as well as 6 as an alternative applicant.
Okay. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to select them this way. So we have, bear with me a second, guys.
I know, and when I was looking at
No, that's okay. I'm going to show you. We're going to do my Excel skills. Okay.
Oh, good.
1, 2, 3. I'm not going to go through sorting it in front of us. Sorry. So those are the top 6. So if you don't mind, guys, I'll put together a quick motion, and that would be to approve FY23-201, 203, 205, 207, 208, and 210, with the contingency that 203 get funding should 210 not qualify.
I so move.
Perfect.
I'll second it, but I do just have the question, as part of that motion, does the stipulation need to be any particular time frame?
That's a great
For
question.
210?
I'm going to let Alicia work with that, honestly, and make a recommendation if you want to, Alicia, or if you.
I think that we should have someone lined up to be taking funds. So we actually, to be, I think they all need to start getting assistance by the 1st of May.
Which is why we're meeting now, Sean. So.
I
yeah.
I understand that. I just want to know, like, as part of our motion, can we leave it open to Alicia to decide when to no longer keep it open for number 1 and move on to number 6? Or does it have to be part of our motion, or to, like, say in 2 months from now, if application 210 does not qualify, then we're going to move on to 203?
I think we should leave that open to Alicia, because it could happen. And then, we may take 3 or 4 weeks before we can get a meeting together.
Yep. Okay, I agree with that. I just want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
And I say we don't put a specific time frame and let Alicia use her discretion at, working with this person if it seems like they're moving into an apartment that might be eligible and could take the funding in a reasonable amount of time. Great. So you'll have a better sense of when you'll feel like, oh, maybe we'll know, and it might be, 9 weeks instead of 8 weeks, or it might become obvious that there won't be an answer and it's time to move on. So can we leave it at her discretion?
And I would agree. I would agree with that too. Whatever's going to be the best for not only Alicia, but also for these families.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So it's been moved and seconded. I'm going to need to get rid of the spreadsheet for a moment so I can do the Hollywood Squares voting. So any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Stevens, how do you vote? I'll take that as an aye. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
That's okay. Thank you. Cindy?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And Jeff Tillotson votes aye. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for doing this, Alicia. I know how much work it is. I'm always just thank you for taking care of it, Alicia. Next on our agenda is Janet Propadakis, who's the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee, also the CPC. And we asked Janet to come talk with us. And James, I apologize. I didn't realize you were also on the Affordable Housing. You're on the Affordable Housing Committee. But Janet, aren't you a director of the Ayer Affordable Housing.org? I'm confused. So help me understand that.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invite. I mean, it's great to see everybody here. It's nice to see the trust at work and everything. So woo, I'm thrilled. As James knows that when we have our committee meetings, I usually go ahead and give you guys definitely kudos. But the multiple hats is I'm chairman of the CPC. I'm chairman of the Ayer Affordable Housing Committee, and I'm also a commissioner on the Ayer Housing Authority.
Thank you. That was the confusing part. I was stumbling over it still. And so with that said, Janet, the reason, and I floated this as a trial, not as a trial balloon, but one of the things we're trying to figure out is what's the trust. As you've seen, we've put in place a way to help families with rental assistance. We got to the point where we were thinking, anybody else jump in on this? We're not looking, what other things should the trust be taking on? We're kind of waiting for the 40B. We're waiting for planning to come up with more housing in the inclusionary zoning and stuff. But from your standpoint, from the Housing Authority, is there anything that the trust can start looking at?
Well, I wanted to give people a little background with regards to the Housing Authority. And I don't know if Alicia, step in, when, if I'm mistaking, stuff, but housing authorities were created to be a local avenue to get affordable housing within a local community. And Ayer was pretty much one of the first ones to create it here in town, where they even have something called a congregate unit that has 7 apartments sharing a kitchen space and community space for individuals who need a little more assistance, so that, and I know it's not called Montechusett help anymore, but whatever the name is, they come in on an often basis to make sure that the individuals that are there. And it's really one of the only congregate units within the group of authorities, housing authorities. That being said, several years ago, there was a software package that the Massachusetts Housing Department of Housing, DHCD, went ahead and created, called CHAMPS. I have no idea. I mean, I can find out what it stands for, but what it is an application process online for people to apply for affordable rental units. However, it does not take into consideration local. So the CHAMPS app, the CHAMPS software sends requests to each one of these housing authorities saying, hey, I'm on this list now. Give me a package of what you have available. So if somebody all of a sudden has an emergency situation that lives in Springfield, they send the request to CHAMPS, then all the other different housing authorities have to send these packets to this individual in Springfield, and whoever has an opportunity and open space, you know, an open apartment, they've got to, they're first in line. So which means the local housing authority seems to be losing that local ability to say, hey, our residents of Ayer come first. So that's one of the things that I wanted people to be aware of, that the housing authorities, especially the smaller ones, the bigger ones really almost don't have a problem because it's usually the people who are in the emergencies are within there. But the smaller ones are losing that local touch. So I know that Ken Martin, the executive director, has been having meetings with the local, house, the state house individuals, Senna as well as Eldridge, to figure out ways to, how they can go ahead and make it more local. So those have been happening for the past week. So I just wanted, again, to bring you up to date on that with regards to the housing authority. We have in transitional housing here in town where there are duplexes over at Isaac Lane. There are 7 of them, and they're all for families that are finding their way, through a rough patch and hopefully get themselves out of their situation by going to school, getting jobs, et cetera, getting a better paying job. And then we have the units over at Pleasant Street School where it's shared with Montechusett, and they are 26 units there for senior housing, as well as the units over on Pond Street. So that gives you a little, like I say, background. One thing too about housing authorities is mass law. They can't develop any new construction. They've got to work with some sort of nonprofit or, work with a developer. So when you're asking what the trust might be able to do, is right now, until there is new law passed, and this is one of the other things they're working on, that a housing authority can go ahead and create new developments, is that the trust can find developers to go ahead and start working with. And I mean, this is one of, I think on a couple of our agendas, to work with the housing authority, just like Montechusett, and I'm trying to remember who else assisted with Pleasant Street School. That wasn't just a housing authority, even though they're the managing partner, of it. It wasn't their project. It was a shared project because, again, the housing authority themselves cannot develop new housing. Did I go through that really too quick, or does anybody have any questions?
Janet.
Go ahead.
Sure. This is Sean. I just, on Isaac Lane, just out of curiosity, is there space for any additional development if we were able to find a developer?
I spoke with Ken about that, and I know that there's an easement at the back there where Noah is building, where they have offered. And he believes that there may be a space for another duplex. And if they do go ahead and, work out a way to get something built, they would manage it just like they do the other apartment, the other houses on Isaac Lane.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Janet?
Alicia, go ahead. Yeah.
Janet, you did a great job. Thank you. There's one thing that I wanted to just, because I think it will be really helpful for everyone. So the Housing Authority handles, originally started with, it's something that everybody should be very proud of. Massachusetts has one of the best state subsidized housing programs in the country. So when you talk about a Section 8, you're talking about a federal subsidized unit. When you talk about Housing Authority, you're talking about a state subsidized unit. So the Housing Authority is managed, and in each town, they're managing state subsidized units. So we not only have federal subsidized units, we have state subsidized units. And that's just one way to look at it. But the authority is in each town. And actually, the authority is not under the town, it's under the state. And I just because I think it helps put everybody's head in the right place on that. So, okay, sorry, Jenna, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, thank you. That was very, very good, Alicia, because, that's one thing that you'll hear me say during CPC meetings when all of a sudden people start talking about Peroni Park, is if you start infringing on the authority's land, and I don't mean the word, being bad for being infringing, but if anything happens, they've got to go through DHCD.
Because it's state.
Yeah, the state to get approval of, okay, great, this easement has got to be moved 2 inches. And this is one of the things that happened with Family Dollar over on Fitchburg Road. They went ahead and they overstepped the boundary. And, it's like, it's a process. And as everybody well knows, when you're dealing with the state, it's definitely a big process, because they go ahead and they'll give the housing authorities their budget almost a year into the year. But when they are looking for their documentation, they wanted it last year. So it's a very tricky tightrope. And I think, having Ken Martin down there is great because he's been doing this for, I'm going to say good 40, 50 years, where he has seen the House of Representatives and such of the state change over multiple times. So he's happy that he's got Jamie Eldridge on his quick dial and such, but he had to bring Danielle Sienna up to speed of a little bit more about the housing authorities. So it is interesting that I've learned a lot, with regards to that. And I think I was teasing Cindy that when I go ahead and find my passion is definitely housing, because there is so many loopholes that, again, I understand the idea behind the software package of Champs, but I just don't understand why, again, we have, for the housing trust rental assistance, there's a scoring unit. Well, someone who's close by or, a resident should have, the highest priority, and it's not turning out that way. So they've had to give up some of the rental units to individuals who don't even live here, some individuals who don't even live, within the United States. So with that, you work hard to get something accomplished, and all of a sudden somebody who's your neighbor can't use it. So that was one of the things that, he was bringing up to me. But they don't have the, like I say, the ability to create. And that's one thing that, again, I'm going to take back to, to CPC, to the committee, as well as to the trust, of we need to focus in on that.
But,
I'm gonna-
but,
Go ahead.
so what we did do with Noah is we put on a local preference. And
Mhm.
we are allowed on other units, or even units that we build and have the housing authority manage, to put local preferences on. And does the Pleasant Street School have a local preference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, you know, how do I say it? Even with the Ayer Commons, should it come to fruition, it's a regional resource. And that is a stipulation of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just like Champ is, it's a regional resource, as you said, Janet. You know, we can't have a neighbor does, a local person doesn't get a preference for it.
Not
And
in
that's very,
Champ.
very frustrating.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like the number one ask is creating more housing.
Correct.
So I realize I sit in an interesting position, and I think some other people here, I think Alicia may know about some of these also, because she sits in an office with the economic development director. But so that you all know what's happening, there are conversations with the town of Ayer right now. You've heard about the West Main Street project. I don't know if you've got West Main Street, the form-based code project down there. There was one that was going to go in front of Shepley Hill, which is where the Devon's Plaza is, but it was deemed to be too small a property, and they're now looking at a property across the street, and they're going to come and ask for some variances through the zoning board of appeals. That may come to be a 132 unit building, which will bring in 20 or so affordable units. But they want to go 4 stories high, and they want the width of the building to be bigger than our current zoning bylaw. So we get a monolithic building, but we get 20 more units that are some affordable units. Now, they're not affordable, they're not housing authority affordable, but they are more market 30, 50, and 80% market affordable units available to this area. So you people may or may not know that that's kind of, it's not even on the drawing, it's in conversation mode right now. But what I think, Janet, what you're asking for is a completely affordable, so all the units become under the aegis or under the umbrella of the housing authority, correct?
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is the housing authority, if they could develop, they would
Mhm.
develop more. Again, if there's space available somewhere, and the housing authority is willing to take on any building that has been quote unquote deemed affordable, or any units that have been deemed, and when I say units, it can't be, intermixed between market base, and it's like they'll be willing to take any management of, I mean, not Air Commons. I think
Yeah.
that would be too big, but again, if the duplex created over at Isaac, or if we take a house and create 4 or 5 different affordable units within some of the larger Victorian homes, they'd be willing to go ahead and be the manager of that property. So
Let me ask a question, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
The Stratton Hill project off of, I mean, it's crazy corner of town, access to it's a challenge. But the last plans I saw, I think, had 4 affordable units in there. And there are 2 duplex, could be even more than 4, but there are multiple duplex buildings in there. Would those become under the management of the housing authority? And at least you
I'm
can
gonna
answer
s-
that question.
yeah, I'm going to say no, but Alicia,
So
I,
I'm gonna give you some examples, okay? Now, those probably are going to be units that could very easily be units that are for sale. So they're going to be deed restricted sale affordable units at 80% AMI.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are ones that I keep track of, and whenever they go for resale, The town is contacted. We make sure we have the right to, so oftentimes we have the right to purchase them if we want. We have the first right of refusal. There's different things that happen, but we just track and make sure they stay affordable and their deed restriction has been recorded properly. So when I was at the Groton Housing Authority, we had, how we have the in lieu of funds that we've set up the trust to be able to handle? The Groton Housing Authority was being given all the in lieu of funds money at that point of time. So they had quite a bit of money. So we had a developer, actually the developer who's doing Stratton Hill. And he was doing the other side in Groton next to the Shaws.
Mhm.
And he owed us units. And what we ended up agreeing with him was he would build us 9 units there on his land. And then he sold the housing authority the units done at the affordable rate. So we used our money to pay him, and we got a Mass Works mortgage. I think it was Mass Development mortgage,
Mhm.
and we used our funds, and that's how we were able to move more units into the housing authority. And those were subsidized units because they're not subsidized in the way that we were able to keep certain rents at certain places. But most of the housing authority units are actually subsidized by a formula, a rental formula. So you make X amount and you pay, what is it, 30 or 35%?
I think it's 30%. Yeah.
Yeah, of your income for your unit. And that means that if you only have $900 a month from Social Security, your unit costs you $300 a month.
Mhm.
And then you have $600 to live on. And so that's what I mean by a subsidized unit. And the state units down on Pond Street and the units at Pleasant Street School, because they did a great job putting that project together and they got funds and got it qualified for the state, are subsidized by the state. So they pay the difference, just like, HUD pays the difference for the federal units, subsidized units. Now, and that is actually what NOAA's doing. They're going and getting tax credit money so they can subsidize 16, well, they're getting 16 vouchers from the government, HUD vouchers from the government to subsidize 16 of those units. So I don't mean to jump in there but that's just, there are ways to do it and transfer it to the housing authority. The units that are going to be for sale units, usually we just put a deed restricted option on it, and my office, just keeps track of it.
Exactly. But it makes me think, if we've got Janet, you mentioned that, what does he call it? Rabbit Run over there in Groton. Mr. Moulton's property is in Groton. And I know he's finally building the affordable units over there. But if he's amenable to
No, he built
building the
these
units,
13 years ago.
I'm sorry?
He built these 13 years ago for us.
He's still building them. My understanding is he's still in Groton because he owes them the actual physical units had to get built. It may be done by now.
No, he built us 9 units 13 years ago. Maybe he owes more.
Yeah, there's more. I think he expanded, and maybe that's what I'm getting confused about.
Yeah.
But if he's open to that type of a transaction, I wonder if there's anything that can be done with the Stratton Hill project. But then again, it's a tough place to live. You got to have a car. There's no way you can walk to the store or walk to, you can walk, but it's going to take you close to 45 minutes to an hour just to get to downtown. But in Groton, the same, well, no, it's right there. Shaw's is right there. And they actually have the Four Corners, which gives you some level of services, even though there's not a lot of services in Groton. Okay. Any questions from, any questions or observations? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something that, we could go ahead and approach, and such as time progresses.
I'm going to say, Janet, next time you see Mr. Diskin, put a bug in his ear. I know I'm going to put a bug in his ear.
Yeah,
Because I
that'd be
know
no
he's,
problem.
and anybody who sees Ken, by all means, put a bug in his ear, because he'll if he sees a glimmer of hope, he'll light right up on it and do some work on it. Because one of the things that happened the planning board right now, we've all got the Washington Street old fire station. That was at one point was going to be 6 affordable units. It may have progressed to the point now where there will be no affordable units in there at all.
I thought they were planning one.
We don't have the final plan,
Okay.
but we have we have an enforcement officer who may have I think the choice is go to an appeals court or build it the way it is without any affordable. It's an unknown time frame. They came to us last night to talk about a couple of things on the front of the building and parking at the planning board. And I said right out loud, I'm sorry to see that the affordable opportunity is going to be missing, but it's an interpretation of the way a bylaw is written, which would preclude a second unit on the first floor in a mixed use building. And there is case law on both sides of it right now. It's not clear. And if I can describe it, what it is when we write things down, we might say unit as a singular because that is the way the sentence is written. But the court doesn't always see that as a singular. In the next sentence, it might say units. And you have to figure out which one controls the language. And so the strictest reading of the bylaw would be a unit, which would not allow the second unit to be built on the first floor, which has an impact upon the number of units being put in the building, which doesn't trigger the inclusionary zoning, which gives us the affordable. And because that's a market rate building right now, unfortunately, but that is what the proponent wants to do, is a market rate building. That's a really hard one, guys. It's just not a really good building in a good place. There's no setbacks and stuff like that, but I won't dig deep into that right now. But that was the news from last night. And right now we've got an eyesore that's falling apart on the side of a road. So what do we do? Let's, we have a project that's on the corner of Main Street and Park Street that was approved. In theory, it's now been 3 years since it was approved, where we're going to get some units in there, but the project never went forward. They have an approved building of 17 units with 0 parking at all on the property in order to get more units. But that has not moved forward. COVID or whatever, for whatever reason, the developer has decided not to move forward, but tried to market the project. So it's tough when it's not in our control, because things can happen to it that have such a detrimental impact to it. And this is why I hope NOAA goes through. I mean, we're going to find out soon, right, Alicia, about NOAA?
Yes, Carly had just sent a note. As I say, I've been out for a little bit, but Carly sent a note today to NOAA for an update. And I think I talked to them about 3 weeks ago or something, and they're working through their financing.
Okay.
There's one other
Janet, yeah, go ahead.
No, there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up to the group here is some of us have created a working group, because you were talking about some of the zoning bylaws and such. And I've asked members of planning, CPC, as well as Charlie Schultz, Alicia, Mark Archambault, and Dave Seabour, if they would, partake in this working group to look at smaller lots for smaller houses. And we've met once. We wanted to expand to different individuals, and I got the yes from Dave about a week ago. So with that, I'll be sending out a invite. Again, it's just a working group to try to look at some of the zoning bylaw changes. Oh, and Ken Diskin is also part of that group. And so same thing with Nathan Lane.
Nathan King.
I'm sorry, Nathan King, forgive me. My goodness.
You're watching Only Murders in the Building, aren't you?
How can you tell? And also, I've seen the other ads for he's going to be in Boston, I think, or whatever. So with that, like I say, we wanted to go ahead and look at some of the changes that need to occur within the zoning bylaws so that we can look at affordable homes to be built. Again, that they would be, sellable. They're going to be homes themselves, not apartments to rent. That will be more affordable because they'll be smaller on a smaller lot and such. Charlie can meet on a Tuesday night, so I'll be sending out an invite again. So there's that working group that is trying to also to look at other things that can go ahead and do. So I can keep you guys all up to date, and Colleen will, hear it on CPC, and James will hear it, via the committee. So with that, and Alicia's going to be part of it as well. So I just wanted to throw that one out there too, that there's other things that are still going on around, and again, we're attempting to try to find ways to get affordability, somewhere within the community. Does that help?
That's really helpful. And I'm going to jump in with a piece of information. I'm not sure where it will go, but I get to go to the MRPC meetings on a monthly basis. And MRPC is actually spending funds and energy on cottage type first time housing. So I don't know if you know about it. You're shaking your head like you know about it.
MRPC.
I'm sorry, Massachusetts Regional Planning Council.
You.
So yeah, this is okay. I apologize, Cindy. I went into the alphabet soup. We're one of, I think, 19 communities in the Massachusetts region that has a regional planning council, which is a quasi-government organization that looks at the communities in this area and does planning that would have a positive effect on everybody in the area. And so they recognize, and they start about here and they go out to Ashby, I think, and north of us and down south of us. And I forgot which communities are in MR. There's 13 regional programming, regional councils, planning councils in Massachusetts. But one of the things they're beginning to recognize is affordability of housing is really a challenge. And so they do the technical side, Cindy, of looking at communities to help them with bylaw rewrites and stuff like that. So if we choose what we want to do, tiny homes in a cluster called a cottage, which would be an affordable, not affordable housing, but at a less expensive first step housing for young professionals, they would look at our bylaws and say, these are the things you have to change in your bylaws to allow that many units on this amount of space. And it's almost like a cooperative living situation. And if you go into Devon's now, over to, the name escapes me, but the new
Emerson
buildings.
Green. Emerson
Sorry?
Green.
Emerson Green. Go take a look over there if you get a chance, drive through. That's cottage style housing. Devon's Enterprise is doing some amazing stuff over there, and they've been leading the way. And let's not get into what Devon's exists. Devon's isn't a town, it's a region. It's crazy. But a lot of work's being done along those lines. And the reason I bring it up, Janet, is I know you kind of hear about it sometimes, and I think I try and get the planning people on the planning board aware of it, because we're very open to this type of high density, more people living on less space, called higher density living, for a couple of reasons. It's cheaper to build, it's cheaper to support from a state, from a town municipal cost standpoint, and it gives people a lower step to get into the area financially. Yes, Cindy.
Would you say that cluster of housing, just over the line in Harvard, would that fall
Very
into?
similar. That is not, so Harvard's not in MRPC, so I don't know how that one was done. And the housing over the line in Harvard was done the way it was done because of they didn't have sewer over there. So they had to put them that way so that their sewer would
I
work.
know why it was done,
Yeah.
but they're very small places. They have no land but they have top-notch interiors
Mhm.
and they're going for an astronomical amount of money. So that's
Well,
obviously not what we want.
No, that is a plan. That's a planned development for a proponent to make lots of money on.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what they're looking at, the name of the person escapes me, who's working on this. They brought it up in a meeting a while back, and it's something that I've known about for a long time because we're seeing it closer into town, and they're just kind of moving forward, but it's with an eye towards affordability. And I know Jamie Elders has an eye on that also. And Danilo is getting better. And by the way, if anybody wants to go bend his ear, Danilo Sen is having office hours in Acton on Friday night at 6:30. So if you want to bend his ear, you can go beat him up. But it occurs to me that maybe Janet and I we should finally have that cup of coffee and talk about what's going on, because MRPC on a monthly basis, there's so much information coming out of there. And it's hard to get it to everybody in town who needs to hear it. Because I think you're going to find that the efforts you guys are doing in the working group are going to be very, very parallel to some of the efforts they're doing over there. And ultimately, guys, when we go to do bylaw work and we have to do studies from the planning board or the planner, we get what's called DLTA, district technical assistance grants. And we basically get professional services for free. And Mark Archambault just got us a DLTA grant for looking at, can our downtown area, is the infrastructure in our downtown area going to support where we can go given what our zoning will allow in the new MBTA zoning? And that's an increase of 100,000 square feet of commercial space and 360 apartments in the next 20 years. So I know it's kind of boring, but look into the future. So it sounds, Janet, like you're looking for housing that the authority can, no, seriously.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
looking for affordable housing, and, taking into consideration, rental units as well as, places for first-time homeowners or seniors to move into that want to downsize. So I think that, again, we don't have a lot of space within Ayer. I know Alicia has heard me speak multiple times on, there's still some property that is available. However, it is built on ledge, so some of it can be open space. There's possibly room for these smaller units if we could do smaller lots. So there's a couple, things in the fire that hopefully can come to fruition.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. And I'm looking at the old Moore Airfield as a possible mixed use cottage type development.
well, again, you got to also do phase 1, phase 2 there. I mean, it's going to
Understood.
fail. Yeah, phase
Understood.
1. So,
Understood.
and the same thing with West Main Street. If that company's willing to do all the remediation and everything, it's a win-win. So,
My understanding is they have a purchase and sale agreement in place and the remediation's almost done on West Main. Because 21Es are not hard to do anymore. They financially can be done now because of the value of real estate. It just generates so much money that a 21E remediation, 21E is just a way of referring to a fouled property. So, okay. Anything else on this one? I could go all night, and I apologize. We shouldn't probably do that, but I want to say thank you very much, Janet.
all right. No, thank you, everybody. Okay. And if you know where I am, if you got questions, give me a holler.
Yeah,
And Jeff, I'll be in touch with you.
absolutely. We that fell down. So next on our agenda is any public comment. I don't even think you have any of the public here tonight. Cindy Knox, want to jump in?
Well, I can just say I really enjoy these meetings because you do really good work in this committee, and I mean that.
Thank you. Who owes the cup of coffee this week, guys? So, no, thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
I mean it.
I know you do. Any new old business on people's minds. We've kind of been touching on that stuff. Cindy, Lavin, got to hit the unmute.
At some point, not tonight, at some point, I think we need to have another discussion on how much we want to focus on rental assistance and the landlords versus something larger. I mean, we kind of talk all around it.
I think that's a yes. And I think the reason we asked Janet in tonight was because we were looking at what do we need to be talking about? And I think it boils down to housing. I think the rental assistance program is something we need to be doing, but it also boils down to housing. And it looks to me, and again,
I do not see how we fit into any of the things that she's saying. So I want something more concrete. I understand that this was the background. That's great. So that's in a future meeting, I want to talk concrete. I don't want any more, philosophy and all that kind of stuff. I want to know, what can we do? What can we potentially actually scrape together the funds to do? I'm a practical girl. I don't care about theory.
So one of the things that occurred to me while Janet was talking is, why aren't we marketing Ayer as an opportunity for people to come in and build affordable housing? The way so that the housing authority will allow us to maintain it. And I don't know if that's use of funds we can do. That's a CPC question. Yes, Alicia, you put your hand up.
We're actually, I know you didn't necessarily, I don't know if you felt like working with NOAA was your project, but you did work with them to get their CPC in there, application in there, if we had money ourselves. And that is something that we can talk about. We can go to CPC and get money put aside. So if we can find a piece of land, which we can buy, and then go out for an RFP, there are things like that we can talk about.
Plain, absolutely.
And I guess while Janet's still here, because I still, after 2 years on CPC, the timeline of it all, still eludes me. But if we are planning on having these conversations and thinking about what we want to ask from CPC at fall town meeting, we have to kind of work backwards, because all of a sudden going to creep up on us, right? So, Janet, when would we first need to approach CPC for a fall town meeting ask?
August, because the fall town meeting is October. So we're going to need to look at, am I right, Cindy? I think fall town meeting's end of October.
Halloween. Think Halloween.
It is.
Yeah, that's
Think
what I
Halloween.
Thank
for
you,
the
Sean.
fall town meeting.
That
So you
means
need to go 2 months back from that.
Correct.
September public hearing.
Correct. So August.
August. But
August
really
CPC
probably
request.
Maybe July if we're, So anyhow, it should be, I agree with Cindy. I'd like to see us now with all this information to really think about what we want our next goals to be. And, I'd say maybe if that can get on the next couple of meeting agendas, because sadly, August will come before we know it. And, it crept up on us this time. And I think we hadn't had those conversations, and thinking about what to go for Springtown meeting. And so hopefully we can use the next couple of meetings to really hammer that down.
I move to make Colleen chair of the Moving Forward Committee. I'm doing it out of love, Colleen. You know that, okay? I'm doing it out of love. And it's one of the things I got to do research on it to figure it out. But yes, absolutely, I agree with you, Cindy. Doing concrete stuff is important, but I don't think we had the concrete defined until just now.
I think that you should be. I think that unfortunately, some of this stuff moves slowly, but you've put in rental assistance. You've only been in existence for over 2 years now. You've put in rental assistance, and you've helped with a 40B, and we're looking at whether we want to purchase land or something like that to have it available to go out to an RFP. I think we're doing great, but I do think we should stay focused.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Alicia. And I guess I had to say, I don't know if you guys saw our new governor speaking over the weekend about and Mayor Wu was talking about in the news also about the necessity for affordable housing. And we had her on the TV set at the house, and Bonnie turned to me and she said, "You guys have been doing, Ayer does amazing stuff. We got 40B, we got affordable housing, we got inclusionary zoning, we've got this, we've got that. Someone should be writing a letter to the governor so that we can get this NOAA project moved forward faster." It came up I brought up a planning board last night, and the chair is seriously considering writing a letter because we got a lot going on here. And so, yes, Cindy, I want to move it forward faster, but I just don't know what to do. And we got to figure that out. And unfortunately, the more we heap on Alicia, we also got to put our oars in the water too, to help with this. Upcoming meetings. Our typical meeting would be in 2 weeks roughly. And by the way, thank you very much about this month, given that we had to get the affordable housing stuff taken care of and the schedules being what they were. Our next meeting would be April 12th. Do we need, that's 10 days away, 2 weeks away. That's too soon?
Alicia says, yes, that's too soon.
Okay.
What,
Let me,
we can't come up with a master plan in 2 weeks?
So one of the things that keeps happening is we're having trouble really being able to settle on spot. Every time we try and do it the second week on Wednesday, half the time somebody's got an unexpected meeting scheduled. You know, ZBA is having an extra meeting or something like that, and we don't seem to take precedence. So would you like me to just try and put it in that spot? And then if we want to say that we're going to pass this month, we can. I'm just trying to get us settled into a spot.
yeah, and I was thinking about this because ZBA seems to be a more important committee than the Housing Trust. I hate to say it, but they seem to be. And the ZBA doesn't know if they're going to have a meeting or not because they don't have their agenda set till 10 days before because they don't know what's coming into town that needs to go before ZBA. And it's impacted by planning and other things. So we do get short shrift at that point. I wonder if, and Wednesday nights seem to have worked for us. I'm kind of curious. CPC meets on Wednesday nights, Janet? Yeah, but another important thing. So we're
the first Wednesday of the month.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, Alicia, we've talked about this before. I know Wednesday night seems to work for the crew here. By the way, I'm reading the tea leaves. We may be able to remain Zoom until July of 2025. It's currently on the Hill, and Massachusetts school committees are fighting hard to keep Zoom open because it's very successful with their meetings. So we may be able to stay virtual, which I think makes it a little bit easier to do it, especially for what we do. But we're up against other committees that, you know, ZBA, like I said, they don't know. So something comes up, we get bumped. And so should we look for another night that works? Go ahead, Colleen.
No, I was just going to ask, does ZBA meet like on the second
and fourth, if they need to.
fourth? I mean, could we move to the third Wednesday? Is that a more?
Let's find out who.
No, I don't know what other committees meet, but.
Cindy, can you tell us
I think Cindy's out of the loop these days. I'm looking at the calendar. I'm looking at the calendar right now.
Carly is the keeper of the calendar. The one thing I would suggest though is if you really had to meet on some Wednesday, if you meet in person, your odds are a lot better of being able to have a meeting. And you could do that occasionally or all the time if you wanted to. It's just the Zoom conflict.
And so I'm just looking at the calendar. ZBA meets on the 19th of April. The 26th is open. As of now.
is that the third week?
So Wednesday, the 5th is the 1st, 12th is the 2nd, 19th is the 3rd, and the 26th is the 4th week of April. That's 2 days after after town meeting.
Why don't we go ahead and do that one if we can, because that's
Yeah.
a month from now.
Mhm.
And
I
I
agree.
just feel like a week or two, 10 days, it's just not going to be enough
Yeah.
to look at some of the stuff that I know I want to look at. Because I feel like I should do some work.
So it sounds like the 26th of April, Wednesday night, 6:15 still work for people?
That works for
And,
me.
and why don't we try and do Zoom?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I will let you know that's an incredibly busy week. It's the last week of the semester for me. So I'll keep you posted as it gets closer. Lots of award ceremonies and stuff pop up in
Yeah.
that last week. So I can't
Absolutely understood. We all have.
you can be without me, but yeah, 6:15 is great.
Yeah, we don't want to be without you, Colleen, but we fully understand. Yeah, and I'm laughing because we have I have town meeting planning and affordable housing trust and MRPC all that week. I'll be in the same building as my wife and never see her. How am I not losing weight? Because I'm skipping my dinners all 4 days a week. So, okay, Alicia, if you can talk to Carly about getting that done, send an email, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And I
I
want
certainly
to,
will.
and I want to say thank you, Janet, for being our special guest this evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Anything you can send along, any idea you have about figuring out how to bring more people in to do more units would be great for the housing trust. Because we're kind of babes in the woods on that one too. And Alicia, fantastic work on the rental assistance. If you need any help, reach out.
Thank you.
And I hope and expect to see you all on Monday night at town meeting.
Hope to see you.
I'll be
Monday,
there.
the 25th, 24th.
I will be there for that.
With bells on.
Motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor.
All right.
Good night all.
Aye.
Good night.
Bye, all.
Cheers.
Good night.